For wealthy Tesla owners with money to burn and a nice house with off-street parking, the idea of an electric vehicle must seem just fine and dandy. After a quick trip to the artisanal bakery for a soy latte and a vegan sourdough sandwich, you can just drive home, plonk the car on the driveway and plug it in to charge on cheap overnight electricity. But just like the politicians that are pushing this EV nonsense, they have no concept that the vast majority of ordinary folk don't have the luxury of off-street parking and are therefore forced to pay through the nose for the inconvenience of public charging, which, if it's got any decent speed to it, is actually quite expensive. So guess what? People are resorting to desperate measures to charge their EVs on the street, with all sorts of highly dangerous cable runs from home sockets out to the cars on the street. Not only does this breach all manner of electrical regulations and can present a shock hazard to innocent pedestrians, but it also presents physical obstacles to those using the pavement. And in the UK, it's getting beyond a joke. Welcome back to MGUY, British engineer and lawyer, now Sydney-based YouTuber. Please be sure to follow me on the usual socials for more content, links in the description, and please make sure you're subscribed and have enabled all notifications so you don't miss out on any future videos. I have to say, I'm amassing quite the collection of photos of ridiculous and dangerous on-street charging examples. If you see something like this on your travels, take a photo and send it to me via email, simon@mguy.tv, or on Twitter or Instagram, and I'll do a video of all those I receive. But in the meantime, take a look at these. This guy tried hard with a cable cover, but didn't quite get the idea. This guy just left the charger out in the rain and wet. Great plan, that. This chap thought duct taping the cable to the pavement would be a good idea. And this guy couldn't even be bothered to make an effort. Apart from being ridiculously dangerous from an electrical point of view, these all present major trip hazards and obstacles to people using the pavement. Ross Clark in The Telegraph suitably ridicules the whole thing. Electric cars make getting around as a pedestrian increasingly impossible. In the name of greenery, councils are turning life into an obstacle course for those of us who simply want to walk. Electric cars, as we are forever being told, are good for the environment, cleaning up city air and leading to fewer carbon emissions, except, that is, when they're stopping people getting about on foot because their owners don't want to use public chargers and are trying to save money by dangling charging cables across the pavement. Anyone else getting fed up of having to step over these things? Whole neighbourhoods are becoming blighted by cables. And no, it's not all right, as with one house I passed this morning, to put up a bright yellow sign saying trip hazard. The hazard shouldn't be there at all. If it is there next time I pass the house, I have a good mind to stage a pratfall and then ring one of those no-win, no-fee lawyers. It was entirely predictable that we would end up with electric car owners laying cables across the pavement, and yet, as with everything to do with net zero, the problem was ignored. The holy grail of net zero takes precedence over everything else. According to the charging app ZapMap, the average cost of charging an electric car at home is 24 pence per kilowatt hour, compared with 80 pence for using a public charger. Inevitably, the 8 million people who live in homes without off-street parking are going to try to get away with charging at home, trying to possess the street in front of their homes in the process. There are companies which will dig you a little channel so that you can sink in your charging cable without tripping over pedestrians. But given that it costs £2,000 a time, funnily enough, motorists don't want to pay that either. Electric cars are completely incompatible with houses without off-street parking. But the government completely ignored this in its desperation to force them on us. And that just about sums it right up. Government desperation to force EVs on everyone meant that they just look the other way when obvious infrastructure problems are revealed. Once again, it won't be until something serious happens that we'll see some action, probably from insurers who will refuse to pay out for personal injury claims when pedestrians fall over the cables dangled across pavements. That will stop people doing it pretty quickly. But it doesn't address the broader issue, which is that the wholesale transition to EVs isn't happening organically or by market demand. It's just being forced down our throats against our will.